Some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist. I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Good morning. We're just going to interrupt. We're going to interrupt the Ridgetop Ramblers. Good morning, Robeson County. Let's just bring them down. Love the Ridgetop Ramblers. Singing us in one street over. We got a lot to talk about. Hey, everybody, this is 1100 WSG. I'm U-Turn LaVerne, and it's almost Christmas, and I've already had Christmas with my family, so I'm done. Y'all have fun. That's a lot of work. So, Merry Christmas. Kaleb Stratton's in the house, and Happy Hanukkah. That is what we were just discussing. And if you are somebody that's like, I know, we're not Jewish, but Hanukkah is a very, very cool thing to celebrate with your family, because it's about telling the story of Hanukkah and the miracle of Hanukkah. If you don't know it, we'll get into it. I don't know if Bill wants to talk about it. Bill Jones is coming in at 7:30 today after Kaleb. So we'll see whatever Bill wants to talk about, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about it. But for sure, one day this week, probably on Friday, which should be the sixth day of Hanukkah, I think. But we'll talk a little bit about it. I might even bring in my Hanukkah, which is not a menorah. They're two different things. A menorah has 7 lampstands. A Hanukkah has 9. It's 8 days of Hanukkah, but you have the one in the center, which is the helper, the Shema, that you used to light the other days. And you only light them, like last night, we lit the Shema in the center, and we used it to light the one day of Hanukkah, and both burn out. And I think I've got, and honestly, I'm studying it and getting used to it and understand it myself, and so I think that's traditionally how you light the Hanukkah, but it's about shining the light and telling the story of the miracle of God and things like that. So anyway, and really, Jesus Christmas. Hanukkah is not Jewish Christmas. Everybody's like, oh, it's Jewish Christmas. No. Jesus went to the Festival of Dedication. He went to Hanukkah. So we'll talk more about that later. Merry Christmas.
How's it going? Merry Christmas.
I'm good. I'm good.
Almost here.
So have you got a lot of stuff to put together for Christmas?
I don't know yet. I haven't even asked.
The mothers of Christmas. Let's just say, God bless us all, because I'm telling you, oh my goodness, you guys.
Hey, we couldn't do it without y'all.
No, you could not. No, you could not. Now I'm sure there's some guys out there that really get into it. My son Jeremiah he gets it. He and his wife get together and they get it done, but traditionally, let's just be honest, because when my children were little, I was pretty much up all night. My husband would be like, I'm going to bed. I'm like, of course you are, because you're just going to leave me to do all this. And this Christmas, I did, and my children do not appreciate the significance of this, but I've had such a hard time finding stuff for my boys. So I went into the museum and I found these. If you have not been into the museum gift shop, get your tail in there and go check it out. They have got these cool prints that Robertson County or Cross Plains or Greenbrier, they're so cool. And I had gotten the kids 2-3 years ago. I gotten them the courthouse print, and they loved it. And I thought, so I need to get them this year. So I got them that. But the morning thing, I wanted something to tuck in a letter that I wanted to write each of my sons, because they always talk about, I'm mom's favorite. No, I'm mom's favorite. And so I started a letter for each one of them. You're my favorite, and then I told them and said a little bit about their childhood and what I think special about them. And then I opened them the same and closed them the same. And the idea was for them to open them and then read them to themselves, not share it with their brothers. They can share it with their bride and their family, but it's for them. Well, we were in such a rush, they didn't read them. And some of them still haven't read them. And your mother stayed up till 3 a.m. handwriting them, so it would be in my handwriting. Boys, they're the men. You just don't get it. But I mean, again,
Well,
I'm up
and
all
then they're all gonna
night
think they were
getting
the
ready for
favorite.
Christmas, huh?
And they're all going to think they were the favorite.
Well, they all know that because I told them when they opened the letters because they kind of looked at them real quick,
Right.
and then they tucked them away because we had other things to do.
Yeah, I'm bad about that too, though. Like I'll read the card later.
You need to
Can't read it right now.
Calm down. Kind of that's almost like the message of Hanukkah, and I love Hanukkah. Hanukkah moves with the Jewish calendar, so I think it's really sweet that Hanukkah is right here as we. Hanukkah it's ushering in Christmas. And it's the telling of the story of the miracle of Hanukkah and telling the story of the miracle of God in your life. And I think it's such a beautiful positioning for Hanukkah this year, as it is, because we had when we were trying to decide on what day we were all going to get together and have Christmas, and we tend to go the Saturday before Christmas is our day. Last year we didn't get to do it because that was also tech graduation, and we had 2 graduating, and so we had to upend it. We did it after Christmas and ended up not having it until the end of January.
Oh, no.
It was like So I'm so glad we didn't have to do that again. So but we had some other things that got scheduled accidentally. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of like a clutter. So we started to have it yesterday on the 18th, and I'm like, that would be wonderful. It's the first day of Hanukkah, and the kids are like, oh, because I've got my Hanukkah out, and anyway, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, hi y'all. That's how it took me 7 minutes to say hello.
That's all right. It's an exciting time of the year. It's one of the most exciting times of the year for
so
me.
Excited, yes. And today's finals for 3rd and 4th block at Greenbrier, and then tomorrow 1st and 2nd block at Greenbrier High School. So anyway, that always makes me nervous.
So y'all are about done for school, huh?
We'll be done Wednesday. Most everybody else got out. I mean, everywhere I was going.
Oh yeah, 21st is half day, right?
Yes. And when I was this weekend, everybody's like, well, are you enjoying your Christmas break? I'm like, we're not out yet.
Yeah.
But then we don't go back till the 9th. The kids don't come back until the 9th. They've got a nice break.
Yeah.
And teachers go back. Yeah, teachers go back that Friday. So, the school board votes on our calendar. I'm learning all this stuff because I'm a teacher now. And these are things I didn't really understand all the nuances, but it's like Dr. Causey was in here, and they've already voted on and approved the calendar for next year. So if you need to know dates to plan family things, you can go online. You can see the calendar for 23-24. And they are right now working on the calendar for 24-25.
Cool.
So, they keep it out. But
That
the school board votes on it. So there was some reasoning behind hey, let's, go until the 21st, and then we're going to stay out, so whatever. I mean, they're looking at it. They're not just going, let's just roll a dice and do it. There's reasons that they think
That's what it felt like when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah.
Like, why are we going back on a Thursday?
Yeah, exactly. There's
we would start school on a
reasoning.
Thursday, and I'm like, no, we don't want to go to school on Thursday.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
go on Monday or Friday. I don't care.
Well, I love that the kids are out until the 9th. And so there was a lot of whining about, why are we going next week? I'm like, well, you don't have to come back till the 9th. Oh, really? And so they're like, huh? Okay. And so, it was like, anyway. All right, bud, what's going on? Kaleb Stratton, you're going to have to tell me, because he's not our wildlife resource officer. He is the regional something or another.
District sergeant. Yeah.
He's a sergeant now.
Yeah.
He's got the sergeant badge, and I think, congratulations. You've got to love that. Aren't
no,
you just
I do.
thrilled? You're living the dream.
Luckily, I still get to do the field work, we call it. I
Right.
still get to go out, but I still got to get Jason in here. I didn't even think about it.
I thought you might bring him
Well,
today.
I did think about it, honestly.
Yeah.
We even talked on the phone last night, and it wasn't until after I got off the phone that when I texted you, I remembered. But no, we'll get him in here definitely one day.
Okay.
He's been real busy, I will say
Sure.
that. He has been working on a lot of good cases and just lots of stuff going on. But we are right in the middle of deer season. Duck season has also started, so a lot of hardcore hunters kind of put their deer rifle down and start duck hunting.
That's the guys down in Louisiana. What are their names? The duck call guys. What are
the
Duck Dynasty people? Yeah, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, they're duck hunters.
Oh,
I
they
don't
are.
get that.
They are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they made millions and millions of dollars.
God
off
bless
of it,
them. Praise the Lord,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
They're Jesus freaks, man. You just keep on
And that too,
because
yeah.
they're spreading the word,
Yep.
man. I love them. I
The
love 'em.
Robertsons.
Yes, the
Si,
Robertsons. I could.
Uncle Si.
They're not my thing. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's great, but yeah, preach Jesus.
I watched the show when it
Preach
first
Jesus.
started,
You're
but,
good. I love it. They're funny. They're funny. But anyway.
Well, there was a funny story about them real quick.
Okay.
A buddy of
Yeah.
mine, they were up here doing some kind of show, and the one of my buddies who's a sergeant over in Macon County, he said he was there. It was an off-duty job, just security. And he was with them, and they were all on a golf cart riding, and they got to talking. They said, "What do you do for a living?" And he was like, "Oh, well, I'm a game warden." And they said, "Get off the golf cart." And they made him walk beside the golf cart, just joking with him for a minute, and then they let him get back on. But they said, "Get off the golf cart."
Hysterical. That's hysterical. That is so cute. I love that.
They were just joking, all in good taste. But.
Yeah, exactly. But that's fun, and they seem like such nice guys. And we actually filled the main guy, the daddy, back before they got famous. He was at our church at the Madison Church of Christ for a guest speaking thing. Yeah. And we were like, "Who's this cat?" He was interesting because they grew up in the Church of Christ, and the kids all went to Harding University, and my son played football at Harding University. So they're all C of C at the foundation, and it's just so we had some. He's friends. I don't know if you've ever met Jimmy Seitz.
Oh yeah,
spiritual outdoor adventure guy, dear friend of mine.
He's come and spoke at our wild game dinners before. And
Yes, Jimmy was preacher up at Madison for years. He actually performed my son Jedediah and Christina's wedding.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so dear friends of ours, and so he brought Phil in for something when he was preaching, and they were friends before Duck Dynasty was a thing, and so we remember him, and I was like, I like this guy, and but that was back when you go up and say, "Hey, nice sermon," before he was a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're neat people. But duck hunting, that's how we went down this rabbit hole. We're talking duck hunting. So anyway, there
the
you
game
go.
board, no, I mean, that's what you know.
That's just it. That's just it.
But anyway, duck season's in full swing now. It'll go through January, through the end of January. So a lot of your, like I said, your deer hunters, they try to get most of your deer and duck hunters. The deer hunters will try to get all their deer hunting done prior to duck season opening. That way they can devote there. They can put the rifle down and pick up the shotgun.
Okay.
But, so that's going in full swing. The major question I get, so I looked it up this morning, but everybody wants to know the numbers. I think it's just a conversation topic. But everybody wants to know, what's the deer numbers look like? What do they look like? And but this year, so I looked it up, and we have harvested so far that have been checked in legally. This is just all the legal deer, which I'd say is the majority of them. We've had 1,086 bucks harvested this year.
Wow.
In Robertson County. 58 button bucks, meaning deer that look like female deer, but they don't have any antlers, so a young male deer. 58 of those, 574 does, totaling 1,718 total deer for the county. That's up to this point. Granted, we still got 3 weeks left.
How's that comparing to last year? I just got ahead of him. Okay.
And total for the state up to today, we're at 127,667 deer. So almost 128,000 deer that we've harvested in the state.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's not a dent in them. I'm telling you, that's not a dent. So last year total we're at 112,000. So we're actually, what is that? 15,000 deer, a little over 15,000 deer more than last year. So
okay, and my guys haven't harvested any yet. They always talk.
You say that every time. Yeah.
Every year, we're gonna go deer hunting. We're gonna go deer hunting. We come to. Well, Dad, they got my husband for Christmas. Oh, my children brought it this year. Now, they might not have read their letters that their mother poured her heart into, and just was very meaningful. But but they all got together and they got him a what's those? Oh, it's not the bow and arrow. It's the
crossbow.
Crossbow.
Yeah.
I could not think of what it's called. Got me a solo stove.
Oh yeah.
I got a solo stove.
A big one? Or
yeah.
Did you say they're making them like tabletop ones now?
That's the one I wanted, and they're like $75. So it was on my Christmas list. I just wanted a little top one so I could sit on the table and just have a little heat, right there. That's all I wanted. No, I got the big one. I got the big one and the little one.
Oh,
it was like some kind of Black Friday deal.
Wow, yeah.
And so, oh my gosh,
those are expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive. I love them. And I had wanted.
Though.
Oh, they're fabulous.
It's
we lit it up. It's just almost too cold to have a fire out right now. I mean, it's got to be about 30.
It's only going to get worse.
Oh, I know. I want to be outside so bad, sitting around my solo stove, but it's just too cold for me. I just can't do it. But they wrought it, but he got a crossbow. So I'm anticipating a deer being harvested at some point or something, So I don't know. So how much longer do they have to hunt?
The actual deer season will run through January 8th. That's a Sunday.
Okay.
Now, starting January 9th, that Monday, that's something we started a few years ago. I've talked about before. So January 9th, that's Monday through January 13th. On that Friday, it's called private land. It's a private land doe only hunt, or antlerless deer hunt only.
Okay.
So not on our wildlife management areas, but on private lands. That whole week, it's nothing but doe hunting or antlerless deer hunting.
Okay.
And we did that because a lot of landowners won't let people come to their property to kill deer because they're afraid they're going to kill a buck, and that's understandable. Everybody wants to save their bucks, but
How come? I mean, are they
greedy,
pretty and
just being greedy? No.
Okay.
It's just like I've got a
Okay.
big deer at my farm, and I don't want you to come kill it. I want to kill it. So
See, and I'm the one that's like, please don't kill Bambi.
Yeah.
They're pretty. I like looking at them, and I'm a meat eater. I'm not one of those people, but I couldn't hunt unless if I were starving, I'd hunt, but I don't have to. I got Kroger and Walmart and HG Hills and all the places to go and get my meat that I need. If you want to hunt it, fine. Just don't make me look. Just don't make me watch.
yeah, no, and a lot of people are like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But with that being said, I was talking about the numbers. So, like, this year we've had 1,086 bucks killed. We've had 574 does killed. Those numbers have to be flip-flopped in order for us to keep, a healthy population. People aren't, in some states, you have to kill 1 to 2 does before you can even kill a buck.
Really?
So, because nobody wants to kill does, unfortunately, we don't need it for meat now. Like in today's, like, we don't, people today don't hunt because they have to have it for food. They just don't. So they do it for trophy hunting, and so trophies are the bucks. Nobody wants to kill a doe because everybody just wants to kill a trophy buck, or a buck to them, or whatever's a trophy to them. So,
well, and that's the thing. We talked a little bit about this at our Christmas dinner because we have a tradition where we do fondue. Okay, we do the broth in there's like melting pot, and you have steak and you cook it in the broth, right?
Yeah.
And so something was said about next year we're going to have venison. I'm like, yeah, I'm holding my breath.
So you got to kill a deer first.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the truth be told. They could go out and harvest some deer in the next couple of weeks, fill my freezer, and save me a whole lot of money at the store. I mean, grinding it up and making, the ground meat for
burger, sausage, everything, yeah.
And, I know my daughter-in-law's family, her daddy passed away several years ago, but he was a big hunter, and he kept their freezer full of venison. And there was enough that long ago. This is the last of Dad's, venison. And so it's time for these men in this family to step up. I would love to save the money at the store and have them harvest it. And it's better for you. I had a friend of mine that for healthy reasons, she would only feed her family deer. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, Jimmy was the one who hunted them for it. Yeah. And she'd call him and say, Jimmy, I need 2 this year. Because she had like a billion kids. But and she's passed, but nonetheless, Kathy Harden's who I'm talking about. But she before she passed away, she told Jimmy, she goes, I need 2 this year, because he talked about her at the memorial, and he was talking about her, and she'd go out and she'd field dress it. I mean, she would dress it herself. She was something else.
I've got a guy like that right now that he's just an older gentleman, and he'll call me and say, hey, I'm ready for some deer now. So, and he'll tell me, he's like, I'll field dress them and everything. And I can't do that to people. So I'll go ahead and cut it up real quick. Not cut it up, but just field dress it and take them to his house. And he sits there and cuts them up, and
probably grinds a lot of it.
He does, I'm sure.
But the back strap, I know, is like
backstrap and tenderloin. Most people won't, we take that out whole. Yeah. And use it for steaks or whatever.
Okay.
People cut it up into strips. You stir fry, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Even beef jerky. A lot of people do that. But there's I'm going to give them a shout out on here. There's a new place up in Cross Plains, and they're not open right now. They got overwhelmed this year. But Bird's meat processing. We've only got one other deer processing plant here place that processes deer, and that's in now going towards Cedar Hill Meats. Mm-hmm. So before, that was the only place we had, and it was just the only game in town. So now this other guy in Cross Plains is open, and that's called Bird's Processing, and they do a great job. I took a deer there, and it was crazy how good it was and how much meat you got back. They did a great job.
What makes them good? What makes them good? What is specific about it that you say that they're just good?
Well,
they're not seasoning the meat or anything. No, it's just the way they present it.
Well, number one, just being good people, and I'm not saying that anybody else isn't.
No, but I'm just saying.
Super nice people, super good, just very helpful, very friendly. a clean facility. So when you take your food somewhere to get processed, it's just like you walking into a restaurant. If you walk into a restaurant that's just dirty and nasty and bugs everywhere, you're not going to want to eat there.
Right.
And same thing with the deer processing plant now. And it takes a lot to keep one clean. But when you
bet.
walk up and it smells like dead animals and just it smells nasty and there's, blood and guts and just bugs everywhere, you don't want to take your deer there because you know there's a chance you may get something in your deer. But man, this place is top notch. It really is.
How cool.
So,
what does it cost to have a deer? Is it by weight or is it per deer?
No, it's
How
just
does it work?
it's just for the deer, and that's a main complaint from a lot of people. And they call us. They'll take a deer somewhere and be like, "I only got back 20 pounds of meat." I'm like, well, how big was your deer? I mean, it just depends. The deer I took weighed a lot. He weighed probably over 200 pounds, and I only got back 50 pounds of meat, which was a lot.
Okay, yeah.
If you kill when you field dress a deer, you say it weighs 200 pounds. I mean, you're looking at 60 or 70 pounds just in hide. Just in the hide.
Sure.
The head itself probably weighs 20 or 30 pounds. And then you take all the bones out, another 20 or 30 pounds. And before you know it, you're just down to, next to nothing. So a lot of people just think, they took a 200-pound deer and I'm going to get 200 pounds of meat back. And that's just not the case.
Okay.
But
and I get that because I grew up on a hog farm, so I understand the processing part of it. So,
right.
I mean, I totally get that. But I just didn't know what it really costs to have a deer processed.
It's anywhere from $100 to $125.
Okay.
And that's just for like we call it the standard cut. So that's just, they're going to cut the backstrap tenderloin out if you want a roast or two cut out, and then ground the rest of it up in burger or whatever. That's going to be about $125.
Okay.
I had a bunch of summer sausage made, and I think I had 25 pounds of summer sausage and 25 pounds of breakfast sausage made, and then backstrap and tenderloin all came out. So I had over 50 pounds of meat. But once you start doing that specialty stuff, it goes way up. It's a couple hundred. It's about $250.
Well, because when they're starting to make summer sausage, that's the chef in them. I mean, they're making it, and and putting in their spices and all the things that they would do, right?
Yeah, Mr. Bird, he was telling me that this was his granddad's recipe. So there's no telling, how old it is. It's a couple hundred years old, maybe. I don't know. Pretty neat.
My husband's brother, my brother-in-law David, up in Michigan, he is the one that I'm always teasing. He needs to come down here for the barbecue cook-off that they have over at the fairgrounds with Cobb Hill Homes, and because he does barbecue, he does sausage, he does all that stuff, and it's fascinating to me because I don't know the processing on sausage making, especially or summer sausage for sure. I don't have a clue what they do with that because I'm guessing it's got to cure out or something. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I
just know it tastes really good.
Yeah, it's
I'll have
really
to
good
bring
stuff.
Some into you.
There you go. And we're talking to Kaleb Stratton. If you have any questions, put them up in comments. We've just been all over the place as we tend to do. Is there anything specific you need to cover while you're in this month? Here coming up on Christmas, because I don't want to talk all the time out and let's not even get to what you need to say.
No, I mean that was the main thing. Just talking about the numbers and stuff. Everything's going great this year.
Okay.
We don't have much planned as far as classes or anything. Not until probably March or April. Like we'll do a hunter education class probably in March.
Okay.
We normally do those in the late-ish winter around spring break, just before turkey season starts. So other than that, that's about it. The next time I'll be in here, deer season will be over.
Right.
So it'll be over, and duck season will still be going. But the juvenile hunt will be January 14th and 15th. So as soon as that doe hunt is over, that week of the 9th through the 13th of January, the very next day, January 14th, that'll be our last juvenile hunt for deer.
Okay.
So we always start deer season with a juvenile hunt, and we end it with a juvenile hunt.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
So the kids get the first and last chances at everything.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, that might be a really good time for them to bring my grandson out to the farm and maybe see about getting him going.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's ready or not, being 6 years old, but we've talked about it. I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and do an ad.
Absolutely.
You look through your notes and see if there's anything else we need to cover. Talking with Kaleb Stratton. He is our District Sergeant, did I get it right?
Yeah.
District Sergeant for Wildlife Resources, and just really, we have so much fun talking. I always look forward to you being in here. You're one of my favorites.
Well, thanks.
But so if you have any questions, throw them up in comments, and we've got Bill Jones going to be coming on here at 7:30. And anxious to talk to him as well. And I need to talk to you. Love to talk about my sponsors. I was talking about them the other day, and I didn't have my notes in front of me about the salves that they make at Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. Miss Jane and Amy, they make these there in the house. And so they've got a blend that's for bug bites. They've got the original CBD blend that is for aches and pains. And I knew there was one more. They've got a CBD salve for headaches, specifically for headaches. Because, sometimes you get those headaches and you can just take the salve and just kind of rub it on your temples, up in, your forehead, maybe on the back of your neck. And it will help you relieve a headache pain without having to take aspirin or whatever it is you take for a headache. I mean, it is wonderful stuff. I swear by CBD products. They have helped me tremendously with my arthritis. They have a sleep oil that you can take to help you sleep better at night. A lot of people have, struggle with sleeping. So they have all the CBD products throughout the winter. They have all the houseplants that are there in the greenhouse that you can go and bring some life into the house while we're still in the winter months. And then, of course, they've got handcrafted items from Miss Jane herself. I went in and got a Christmas apron and some other things because I just wanted something that Miss Jane made, because they're a sweet family and they're just great sponsors of this program. And they're open right now, Monday through Saturday. They're open from 10 to 4. Sunday, they're open from 1 to 4. Go by and see them. And if you can't make those hours, Amy says, just give me a call, 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185. She'll meet you. They're at 4920 Highway 161 in Springfield. Great friends of the program. When you talk to them, always let them know that U-Turn sent you. So we're back with Kaleb Stratton. Going to wrap up the show with him right now. And if you got anything else that you think we need to cover that maybe we missed?
I don't think so. Nothing major's been going on, which is good. It's quiet.
That's true.
Nothing
It's not
bad.
voting season.
Yeah, nothing bad has happened. So
Yay.
it's
Everybody's having fun. And
it's going good.
maybe by the next time you come in, I can say they actually harvested a few deer on my place.
I hope so.
Filled my freezer. I would like that. I mean, I'm very frugal, and I'm very careful about what I spend. That's one thing, that fondue dinner we do for Christmas. Oh, it's expensive.
You got to splurge on it, huh?
Yeah, and we do once a year, but it's a lot of fun. If you've ever done fondue with your family, you really need to get into it because it's a lot of fun. And you sit and you talk. It slows you down. But that's the reason why we didn't have time to read the letters, is we spent too much time fondueing. It's okay. I'm just teasing. But maybe they'll harvest some by the time you get in here. And and I think they'll end up dressing them themselves, because my husband knows how, because he grew up in
He said you got a little processing thing, right? Like a meat grinder and stuff?
He knows. Well, he learned how to do that growing up, because, deer hunting's huge up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And so he's kind of grown up with it. So, but he got some kind of an instructional thing to make sure he knew how to do it. And he's done.
Mm-hmm.
He's processed a couple, and not once he's killed, but once he's hit with a car.
Oh, yeah.
Or somebody, you know what I'm
Somebody hit
saying?
with a car,
They
yeah.
put one out of their misery because
Right.
it got hit, and he's like, I'm harvesting that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, roadkill, baby. I'm serious. We've got our rednecks around here ain't got nothing on the Upper Peninsula rednecks. They're the biggest rednecks I've ever met in my life. And if my brother-in-law are hearing this, they're going, you bet we are. They claim it. They're awesome. If you've never been to the UP, you need to go. Anyway.
Well, hey, in all seriousness, though, let me know if you need some deer. Just let me know. I've got to kill a lot, so I don't have to, but I've got lots of landowners that want me to come out and do some doe harvesting. So I've got a lot of work to do. I'll put it that way.
I'll take it. I mean, yeah. I'll just tell you right now, I'll take one.
So,
Absolutely.
and what's good right now, and this is a good time to do it. It's really cold.
Yeah.
But that's what's good, because I can kill it, I can field dress it, and you can leave it laying for a week or two. I mean, that's. Oh yeah. No, most times, like, you can leave them if it's cold. You can leave them for a couple of weeks, and they're fine.
Oh, I just couldn't do that. I'd be like, no, go get it.
Yeah, no, most people will
crazy.
do that. They'll leave them hanging for a couple of weeks just to to age that meat a little bit. And,
Really?
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll take one.
It's good.
Maybe two.
One,
I've two.
Maybe three.
I've got maybe. I mean, I've got a huge freezer. I've got a huge freezer, and I'd love to grind some of that up and get some of that going.
Well, good deal.
Yeah,
Well,
well, I'm wheeling and dealing here.
Hey, yeah.
Absolutely. I'll put me on your list, man, because I can't get my men to harvest it. So.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to step in if they're going to kill a deer, but I hear you talking about it all the time, so I figured maybe we should get you something going. So.
Absolutely. I would appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to challenge you to go ask your wife, honey, is there something I can do to help you get Christmas ready for the kids? I'm just saying.
I will.
What do I
she's
need
already
to put
got it done.
together? What do I need to do? But just go ask her. Have you got her something for Christmas?
Oh, I can't say that yet.
Okay, well, but
Just
I'm
because
just.
I have it.
I don't want you. I don't want you to say what you've got.
It's just the week of Christmas now. I mean, it's just now time to start, right?
Do you have stockings hanging up in your house?
Yeah.
Does she have one with her name on it? Mm-hmm. Do you get stuff for her stocking?
I do.
Good man. Good man. So that's one thing with my husband.
Hey,
And
Amazon has been a lifesaver. Because you can
Shop
just type
local.
in. You can just type in. That's
Shop
true
local.
too.
Yeah.
But you can just type in women's stocking gifts, and bam, they all pop up.
That's hysterical.
But you're right, actually, about that though.
We got great boutiques.
Yes.
I did a lot of shopping in downtown. I got my guys something at the History Museum in the gift shop.
Yep.
And then I got the girls something at Main Street Boutique. And I've actually got, I want to add something else to the boys thing. I want to get them one of those Robco sock caps, and I don't know I don't know where to get them, because the ball caps, they had them at the museum. Those won't fit my guys. They got a couple of them have got really big.
Co-op did have some stuff.
Some Robco stuff, okay. Because I need the beanie. I
Yeah.
want like a couple. I want some Robco beanies for my guys, and I didn't have time to get them. So
I know Co-op is always posting hats, but
I'll go check it out.
But they may have some.
Okay,
some
but
up
yes,
too.
well, you're doing good. All right, bye.
See y'all later.
Bill's going to come on in here, and we'll see you later. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. While Caleb's making his way out, I'm going to go ahead and talk about one of our other sponsors, Barry and Rebecca Ridges with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team, my friends in real estate. Love these guys. I talk a lot about what Barry does for me to help me with audio video program. He is just awesome. He's such a good friend. We got drones in the other day. I didn't have the first idea. I was intimidated. I've never touched a drone, and these are very nice drones that we're going to use for the audio video program. And so I know when I need help. I know when I raise my hand and go, I need some help with this. And so he came out and helped us. It was so funny that he says, well, if you can get them charged before I get there. One of my students' father actually has one. And so Jorge helped us get them all plugged in, and we got them charged. So when Barry came out the next day, we were able to, we basically spent the time getting the updates and all that on those things. Bottom line is, he knows a lot about this stuff, and he brings that talent to the real estate table. So that means if you're selling property, he knows how to use a drone and get that drone footage. He can do those walkthrough tours where people can walk through your home without having to walk through your home. He's a Zillow certified photographer. That means he takes beautiful pictures. So when they go flipping through the listings, yours is going to pop. They're going to see it, and you're going to have a better shot at getting people to your property to get it sold. His bride, Rebecca, she's been at this a long time, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. That just means that she studies and she stays up to date on everything that you need to know when you come to the real estate table. You want to connect with them? Go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy.robertsoncounty.com. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but they buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Call them at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Always tell them U-Turn sent you. Bill Jones is in the house. How you doing?
Good morning.
I've got a couple of openings. I'll just tell you, I think we've got United Way. They're so busy with Christmas and stuff. And so Tiffany said if you can come in at 7:30 on Thursday, you can have that slot if you would like it. But I wanted to talk to you a couple of times before Christmas, because I know you got stuff on your mind.
Yeah. Always working on something.
And I ran into your sweet, precious bride the other day
She told
at the
me.
store.
She told me
She's
about that.
lovely.
She was so excited to
She
meet you.
is lovely. Just a very pretty lady, so sweet, and sure loves you. Boy, I'm telling you, she's bragging on you and talking about you. And
She
what a
better.
lovely
I'll
lady.
get after her if she doesn't.
Oh, but she is lovely. And I told her then, I said, I want to really get Bill in certainly before the end of the year, and just because I know you send all these great things, and I get to read bits and pieces of them. I have a hard time sitting down and reading anything straight through, because I'm just going 1,000 different directions right now. But you do a good job. And I'm like you. I get into something and I just want to dig. I'm studying Hanukkah right now and a couple of different other things. And I was this morning in study, and I was like, I ran out of time. Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought this. Yes.
I'll try to give it to you.
Well, what do you want to talk about today?
The birth of Jesus Christ.
Okay, let's do it.
And, of course, as I'll mention this again because you already know this. I do a lot of studying of Eastern customs, idioms,
Right.
customs of a lot of the customs they had 2,000 years ago or more, still the same way today. So I study that a lot, and it opens my eyes to the explanation of Scripture and clears up some things that seem to be mysterious.
I agree.
So I do that, and it's constantly finding things. And around Christmas, I find the story of the birth of Jesus Christ sort of odd, I think. And so I study customs to see what what they actually did back then. I have a little bit of a cold or
Oh, I think
congestion
we
or
all
something.
do. Everybody's like clearing their throat. Would you like a Hall's cough drop?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine. I wrote these two, and I already sent them to you about frankincense
Right.
and myrrh and what they meant, and also sanitation in the Bible. Did you read any of
I didn't
that?
do the sanitation, but the frankincense and myrrh I've gotten. I haven't.
Okay. They're sort of
but I
short.
will. I will.
But I mail
Absolutely.
out, as you would mention before, I mail out stuff maybe 2 or 3 times a week about research that I've been doing. And when I say research, I don't have a doctorate degree in something, but it's just interest of mine. I'm just very interested in biblical things, and it just opens up a lot of understanding. I want to know, I just want to know. I'm not, anybody out
I'm
here
the
with any
same way.
special
Well, no.
talents or
Here's
anything.
the thing. I don't. I know that I will never go back to college and get any kind of a master's or a degree in divinity or any kind of biblical studies, but I can do it independently.
Right.
So that's what you do when you go in and you get your master's, you get your doctorate, you just study. That's what you're doing. So do you have the authority to speak on it? Absolutely, because you're devoted to study.
Right.
And that's what it means. If you're devoted to study, then you should be talking about it, because you are. I have so many conversations with people, and they'll start talking about something, and I'm like, that's not what that means.
Right.
Because they
right.
haven't fully studied it.
And well,
And I'm like, and respectfully,
Yeah.
I want to tell them, let's look at this a little deeper. But I'm like, no.
I'm
that's
not
what
out
that
there to
means.
argue.
Yeah, no, me either.
I get this on the
Yeah.
internet all the time. I'm on the internet a lot with questions and answers and things, and I'll get people say, "Well, what's your degree? Don't you have some kind of?" I said, "Well, I'm just an average person that
Yeah.
studies a lot. I'm not
Yes,
very smart.
Yes, you
as
are.
Some people
Yes,
are.
you
I
are.
just do a lot of studying.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, if you don't have any credentials, well, how can we believe you? I said, I'm showing you what the Bible says and how it fits together like a hand in a glove.
Amen.
That's my favorite saying. The Bible has to fit like a hand in a glove, not a 5-fingered hand into a 3-fingered glove, but a 5-fingered glove. It's got to fit. And it does. It's just a matter of study. And we have gotten so far off through centuries and years of misunderstanding of the scriptures that it's time we got back.
You
and
bet.
I read something yesterday across my news feed I get that there's a mass exodus of church membership, and I thought, no, they're looking at 21 and 22 with COVID. People didn't go to church, so they're using those figures to show that people are dropping out, and I don't think it's exactly like that. There are a lot of people dropping out, and they're not coming back after the COVID thing because it's not interesting. They don't understand, and people are not teaching properly what the Bible is saying. Is what I'm saying. I'm not that I
agree.
know everything. I don't, but it's a lot of fun putting it all together. So I wrote this about somebody saw me in a restaurant in Larry's the other day and asked me, do you know anything about sanitation
Okay.
in the Bible? I said, well, let me go back and study. No, I don't. Let me go back and study. So I came up with that about
Interesting.
how, and people in Bible lands way back then were really, they didn't know anything about germs till the late 1800s, So just think how they lived with animals, the stench.
Oh, I
People
can.
didn't take baths, their clothes stunk. And so this frankincense and myrrh, they brought them to get things smelling better. And we have to think how things were back then compared to how it is today, and not look at it in a Western thought pattern that we have, but an Eastern thought pattern of how they did things back then. So with that in mind, I started looking back to the birth of Jesus Christ. And I found a lot of neat stuff. And then, too, of course, I'm not a Greek scholar or a Hebrew scholar or anything, but I can work my way through those languages. There's so much help on the internet now. If you just look,
Oh, it really
there's
is.
a lot of help.
Wonderful.
So you don't have to be a scholar. But I was just looking at some Greek words. They translated for the word inn, I-N-N. Tradition says Jesus, they couldn't find room in the inn, which is not exactly true. So I quickly wrote this down. I was up early this morning, late last night I got 8 pages of stuff. But
Okay.
I'll leave with you. You can, and then I'll send it out to people. I've got to clean it up a little bit because I've got some redundant stuff in there. But I'd like to share with you this morning some of the things I
Absolutely.
found. So what do you believe in the Christmas story that actually happened?
Probably what you're about to share, because I've studied it, and so I don't want to take the cat out of the bag. But traditionally, let's say 10 years ago, it's like, okay, well, they were trying to find a place to stay, and nobody had room for them. Then they stayed out with the animals, and they, the whole thing with the wise men coming in, and all the things that are depicted in the nativity scene, which is completely incorrect, completely wrong. And so I'm probably on page with what you're going to talk about, but let's let you unpack.
Well, let me say this. People get mad at me sometimes because they think I'm changing. I'm not. You're just
reading
defining. And you got to be ready to change.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it all right yet.
Right.
But just say, for instance, they said they had 3 kings. It doesn't say that in the Bible. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and they think, well, it's just 3 people. But caravans traveled with a lot of people. It wasn't just 3 guys. They'd be robbed on the way by bandits, which was very common back then. So that just starts things off knowing, we've got some little wrong ideas about in our songs. We sing about it, and things we read about it. It's just traditional that the Western world has come up with. Now, let me say this. It says in Luke 2:7, and Mary, she gave birth to her firstborn son. And, of course, I look at things that, well, what's that mean? Not the whole verse. But firstborn means it was Mary's first child. But it was God's begotten son, only begotten son. It was God's only begotten son, only son he had, Mary's firstborn, because there were 6 other children that Mary had, 4 boys and 2 girls. Now, the boys are named in Matthew 13:15 and Luke 8. And a lot of people don't know that. I've had some people ask me, did Jesus have any brothers? Yeah, well, some religious group teach there was no other children. And there it is right there. You just got to read it. It's there for free. It doesn't cost you a thing to read it. And it's there. It's just a matter of studying and looking at it. So it was Mary's firstborn and God's only begotten son. So I thought, that's so neat. It tells us he was laid in a manger. I looked in 1 Samuel 28:24. It says, now the woman had a fatted calf in the house. Well, what about that? In the house, what they did back then, if you didn't have if you had a large group of sheep, you'd have a shepherd out in the field keeping them. But if you had one animal, and animals were expensive back then, you had one calf or one lamb, they put that animal in the house with them. Now, you're talking about the stench. Here we go again. But in their house, the typical house back then, they would have a guest room. They would have the main room of the house, and then they'd have this place in the main room the animal would stay. Now, the floor would be lowered to maybe 3 or 4 inches to keep the animal waste from getting into the rest of the part of the house. They didn't have beds like we have. They didn't have tables and chairs in first century. They did everything on the floor. They sat on the floor to eat with a blanket. They slept on a blanket. Most of the time, if you were traveling, you traveled with just a blanket that you slept on. These animals would stay in the house. The house in the wintertime would keep them a little bit warmer than usual because of the animal warmth. They would have a manger. A manger is the same word in the Hebrew as crib, or trough. It's translated trough, I think, over in the Old Testament, but that's where the animal was fed. So Jesus was placed in a trough, a crib, or a manger, where it was fresh hay, it was clean, where the animals normally would eat out of. But I'm trying to summarize 8 pages I've got here, but think about this. Joseph and Mary were royals. They were both, that requires another study I've done about both of them being of David. Some people think it's only Mary or only Joseph, but both were, and that gets into a lineage, which I always have done in genealogy as lineage, but I found where both of them were royals. Bethlehem was counted as a city of David, so Bethlehem was not a big town, and they were royals. They had family there. So when Joseph and Mary traveled for the registration that they were going for, they what they normally did back then, they stayed with people. They had inns, but inns were for sort of rough people. It was noisy, I don't believe that they didn't have a place in an inn, because they wouldn't even go to an inn. They didn't have a place as a room, a guest room. Tradition back then, Eastern customs, was that people were very conscientious about guests. You even look back in the Old Testament, and I've got plenty of examples in here that, and they still do today. They're very conscious about people who come in and visit, and they usually have a guest room in the house in the first century. So, and I looked at some Greek words, and they fit. Topos, kataluma, one means just a place to stay. One means a guest room, and I don't have time to go into details of all that, but they actually, I'm trying to summarize all this. They came and stayed with some either family or someone who knew they were of royal descent from David. And, you know, even Paul descended from Benjamin, which was 1,500 years before him, and he knew it, and they kept up with their genealogy pretty good. Mm-hmm. So they knew Joseph and Mary were not just ordinary people. So when they came to this house where they want to come to, the guest room was filled because everybody was coming. So they let them stay in the main room of the house where the manger was, where the area where the animals were kept. So here they are. And another thing I'm thinking, I look at the shepherd, you know, the preacher Sunday was saying, you know, guess who God told first? Little old shepherds in the field. They didn't have any political pull. They didn't have any, you know, look who God told. That's just amazing to me that he went to the shepherds and told them, said, hey, you go into Bethlehem, you will find the Messiah laying in a manger. Well, you think about that, and they go into a city, and how are they going to know which house to go to? God didn't tell them. The angel didn't tell them which house to go to, but it had to be, it wasn't in a place, it wasn't in an inn where rough people stayed. It was in a house and in a manger. Now that gives you a key, because why? You know, it's sort of a sign that was given to them that he would be in a manger, and he would already be born. And back then the custom was when a child was born, the men left the house, and maybe a midwife and some other women that were experienced would come over and see to it that the baby was born. So the men wasn't even around. They were outside. The baby would be born, they'd clean him up and all that, and then the men would come in and observe. One of the customs back then was if a male child was born, there would be celebration. If it was a female child, they didn't celebrate. One of the reasons for that, when they got married, a woman had to give a dowry, woman's family, a dowry to the husband's side. So the husband's side had all that meant they were going to, if they had a boy, they're going to have money in the family.
Right.
So it would be a lot of shouting, music, and Jesus was born at night, and a lot of going on. So the shepherds would know, probably the only child born that night because it was a small town. So the shepherds would know when they came to town, they heard the music, they heard the shouting about a male child born, they go to that house. And they say, there he is in the manger. Well, that was the signs that was given to them that this is the Messiah. And if they were, Joseph and Mary was so poor they couldn't find a place to go, and he was born in a barn, like they say, then the shepherds, I don't think they would have left. They said, wait just a minute, we got to take care of this guy because he's going to be the king. But they saw he was taken care of very well. They had family, and they had a house they were in. It was warm. He was in a manger where there was plenty of fresh hay and things. So the shepherds left rejoicing because they'd been given the sign by the angel. They came and found him in the house where they were rejoicing, and they went away quickly, it said in the scriptures, because they knew everything was okay. We're told today, or indicated, that Joseph and Mary they couldn't find a place to stay, and they had to stay in an inn, which they didn't. That wasn't the right Greek word. And they were just so destitute, and that's not the way it was. So that's just the highlight of everything I wrote about on there. So
I think one of the most interesting things I heard you say is that you referred to them as royals. I had never thought to put, because they were from the house of David.
Written on that before.
And,
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I've never heard anybody call them royals, and I thought, well, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That is so interesting.
Genealogy was important back then.
Yeah.
it was really important to them. So, you know,
So
there's
they
so
would have
many
known
things
they
that
were
fit
descended of
together in the
David.
scriptures.
Interesting.
You know, fits like a hand in a glove. Everything, Old Testament, New Testament. You know, I get this thing all right. Well, what should I read first? You know, I did a long thing of a dissertation, I guess, of a short meaning of each book of the Bible. If anybody wants one, I'm glad to mail it to them. But if you're starting out, I would read something like that to find out, you know, what each book is about, sort of. And then I think I told you we had a friend that just starting out as a Christian, and they said, what do I read? I said, well, my wife says, get a children's book about stories of the Old Testament. Well, that's a great idea. And we got this big, huge book. We got the bookstore with colored pictures and gave it to this person. And they loved it. You know, I said, don't get your idea that you're a child, you know, looking at children's books. This gives you an idea of some of the stories and the miracles that happen in the Bible, and you go from there and read the little thing I gave on each book of the Bible, what they're about, and pick you something out where you want to start. The Bible's not like a normal book where you read chapter 1 and go through to the end. It doesn't work like that. So if you sort of know how it's laid out, and then you get the understanding of their customs and how they thought back then, the Eastern times, we're going to have to get rid of some of our Western thoughts, you know. And people get upset with me on that, thinking, and they say, well, you're teaching Eastern religion. No, I'm not. I'm just talking about their customs so we can understand how things went back then. So that's sort of basically it. I did write something here about the reasons that Joseph and Mary could have found a place to stay in Bethlehem. First, Joseph returned to his town of origin. That was where he was from. And like I said, they were both descendants from there and royals. Then, another thing I looked at, Zachariah and Elizabeth. You know, you remember Mary went to Zachariah and Elizabeth, and they prophesied about her giving birth to the Messiah. Well, they didn't live very far away. They were just in the mountain areas just outside the town. So if they needed a place to stay and didn't have one, they could go to them.
Right.
You know, they didn't. They had a place.
Right.
They weren't turned away from the inn and had to stay in a stable. That's not what happened. And I know people get upset
Well,
with me
how
on that,
many
though.
little children's plays have we been where Mary and Joseph knock on the door, go away, there's no room in the
Right,
inn.
right.
I mean,
It
that's
wasn't
just
that way. It
yeah,
wasn't that
and
way.
it's just no, not at all. And two, we have our nativities with the wise men that are sitting there, and they're all part of that. But they didn't come until later, because whenever they had they said we wanted to just kill the boys 2 and under, there was some time had passed.
Right, there was time passed. It was 2 years. It's just we don't realize that, and you got to look at it when you read it, every word and every statement, and say, "Whoa, wait just a minute, slow down here." It takes me a long time to read.
Yeah.
I can't read a chapter in one day.
I got to tell you, my friend Paul Rainey is on here, and he goes, okay, now we've gone from a barn to a cave and to a house. I'm confused. And so I get it. Well, because we talked about this at church, and that we've misinterpreted it. And I was not a part of the study that they did, The Road, the Rock, and the Rabbi. Okay, so I think that Kathy Gifford talked about this a little bit, and I'm not sure what they came to. Now, I've done the study through Christy McClellan, and she talks about how that homes, like you said, the animals would live in the home. Now, she didn't specify in the main living area, but she said sometimes there was a place under the house that they would have. Or there might have been a cave. I think Kathy Gifford was talking about there being a cave.
Yeah.
But there's in the Christy McClellan study, they show an image of a house that they've uncovered that has that design, that the animals were underneath in the lower part, like a dig out area underneath the house, and then you'd have the main living area and maybe a guest room up at top. And that word Cataluma, that's interpreted guest room.
Right.
And so that's what they're saying. That's the literal word, that it says there wasn't room in the Cataluma. I think I'm pronouncing it right.
I think. Who knows?
But it's,
I don't know how to
the
pronounce.
word doesn't mean inn. It was mistranslated. It means guest room.
Right.
And so
Got it.
they stayed with the animals, wherever that might be. It might have been in the main floor. It might have been in a cave right beside the house. It might have been in an area under the house. The point was, where the family animals were kept is where they were put. But just like just like now, you would put your animals wherever it worked for you. So if you had a home that was big enough to have an area underneath, that would be it. If you had a home that was adjacent to a cave, maybe you would let your animals stay in there, and so maybe that was it. And so, but you might have them there in the main house, like you said, with that indention in the floor that makes perfect sense. And things that they've excavated show those illustrations. There's examples of all of those things in archaeological
the idea of cave came along.
Yeah.
Many years back, European came up with. But back then, they used caves for graves. They used caves for houses. They used caves for, it was hollowed out place. They'd use it. But I don't think the cave, from what I can read, I don't believe the house was a cave. But they did have a sunken area where the animals were. And maybe just 3 or 4 inches, but it was lower to keep anything out from the regular. But when they say they had no room in the inn, that word inn has changed through the translations in the last 100 years, especially in NIV and some of the one called, the Christian Holman Bible says no guest room available for them. Now it says. That's how the translations go. It wasn't an inn, I-N-N, where they stayed, no room there. It was no guest room, so they put them up in the main room of the house.
Right.
And that, they weren't, you remember the Shunammite woman and Elisha would come along in the Old Testament and didn't have anything to eat or anything. And the Shunammite woman had a son that died, and she built a room on top of her house for him, and that was their hospitality. There's records in the Old Testament where even enemies, they had to be had a hospitality toward enemies to keep them for a certain period of time. It's just amazing some of the Eastern customs that they did. I don't think I would put anybody I didn't know in a room in my house. I know my wife would not.
But, I don't think this is a good idea,
but
Bill.
That was their hospitality back then. So the manger would not have been a guest room. They had a guest room separate from the manger part of the house.
Somebody was already there.
And so what they did, the guest room was filled up, so they kept them in the main part of the house. And I remember a picture one time I looked at of a replica of one of the houses. They came to a point at the roof and had a hole in the roof, so when they cooked, the smoke went out the hole. They didn't have fireplaces, and they just cooked right there. Their bathrooms was a pot in the house, or you go outside. It's just, my grandmother, I remember, had a chamber pot under her bed. We live so good now.
Oh, we do.
The last 100 years is so much different and better than what it used to be. But anyway, guests were especially treated in those days. Another thing, to me. As I said, the sign was to the shepherds, to be in a manger, but the noise was the attraction because when they gave birth, all the noise. And they do that today. That's the same thing.
Oh, yes. But now they celebrate girls.
You're going to know in a small town, Bethlehem was not as big as Springfield, but if you know in a small town, you go to Greenbrier and in the middle of the night they're having a party, you know where to go. It's a celebration. So, I hope.
Yeah, we're pretty much out of time. I got to do an ad. So we'll go ahead and wrap up your thoughts, and I'll do an ad, and we'll say bye.
Our wrap-up thought would be, things change. Our understandings change about things in the Bible because we're looking at things that were historically different back in the Eastern times in the Middle East. So we got to be open to change to understand the Bible. And don't get mad at me or someone else for bringing these things up. I just think it makes it fit much closer where we can understand the exact way it happened.
Absolutely. Bill Jones in the house. Always enjoy talking with him, and we will have him back in here if he's able on 7:30 on Thursday and touch on whatever you want to talk about as we approach Christmas. And I think we're going to talk about Hanukkah on Friday. I'm not really sure, but we'll do all that. I might even bring my Hanukkah in here if you missed the first part of the show and talk a little bit about that. But I need to go out talking about my friends, Cumberland Connect. I'm so excited. This is the time of the year that I need my internet to work. I need high-speed internet. Now, I was telling my kids the other day, I'm going to get a gig, and they're like, Mother, you'll never use a gig. gig. That's a lot of speed, Mom. And I'm like, I just want it. I can have it for $80 because right now I'm paying $65 and I have terrible internet. So I want a gig. So I'm going to spend $80 and I'm going to get a gig and I'm never going to have slow internet again. Gwen has been teasing me. She's been sending me pictures of her speed test, and it's like speeds of 600 and something. It is
Make
fabulous.
you drool.
Oh, I'm telling you. And if you are a Cumberland Electric customer, you're going to have access to high-speed internet. It's on its way, guys. If you want to find out when you're going to be, when your area is going to happen, you can go to cumberlandconnect.org, put in your zip code, connect with them, say, hey, I want this, I'm interested, I need to hear from you. You want to make a phone call? I've got maybe a phone number. Yes, I've got a phone number right here. It's 1-800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362. They are great friends of the program. They are full-time sponsors now, 5 days a week. We love them, and I cannot wait until I can kick everybody out and just say, here, Cumberland Connect, you take care of things. If you want to know more, cumberlandconnect.org/workshops even. They have workshops that'll get you acclimated and help you know everything you need to know. Cumberland Connect, one of our wonderful sponsors here at 1 Street Over. I always tell them, you turn Cincha. Okay, Bill, you going to join me Thursday? Can you do it?
I'll be there, yeah.
All right.
I always got something.
Thursday at 7:30. We'll continue.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. God bless you guys. Tomorrow, Mayor Billy Bogle is in the house, and so we'll look forward to talking to him. Look forward to seeing you guys here on 1100 WSGI. God bless.